for fast, cheap, and reliable Madden 21 Ultimate Team coins. Make sure you guys go check out my sponsor, Easy Mutt. Use code VENOM at checkout for 5% off. Yo, what's up guys, Venomfire here, back from the video, and today I have another Madden 21 pass defense and run defense for you guys out of the big nickel over G defensive formation. We're going to go back to the theme of match coverage. You guys have been loving that a lot, showing a lot of love on those videos, so I appreciate your support, and I'm going to bring you guys another one. Continue on to our big nickel over G, because I have actually gone over two different match coverages out of that specific formation, and we're going to continue that. Now, very important when you're running match coverage, I see some people asking, why is my coverage not matching? And the reason for that is probably because you're setting your zone drops to certain zones. It's important when you're running match coverage that you do not adjust those at all. You leave everything at default in order to run it the correct way. So moving on past that, we're going to be the 4-6 defensive playbook. My favorite personal playbook in the game. Has big nickel over G, 3-3-5 and 3-3-5 wide. And again, when you're in this big nickel over G, you can get safeties at linebacker. That'll just help with the match coverage as well as your user. Also, before we get into the video, I do want to remind you guys to go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe at any time. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. Go ahead, hit that sub button if you're new to the channel. But let's get into it. The actual play that I'm going to go ahead and be running is going to be this cover 6 trap. Now, we've ran a couple of plays. We have ran cover 4 quarters, I believe. And then we have also ran this cover 6 stock. I might have even ran the cover 6 invert also. We're going to move into this cover 6 trap. I like it a lot, and it's going to be a little bit different than some of the videos we've done, specifically the cover 6. And overall, let's just go ahead and get into it. Specifically, we're going to go against a little bit of a unique formation. A lot of you guys asked me to go against certain unique formations, so we're actually going to do that. Let's go against this Y-off trio. Also, I actually did just make a video on this yesterday. If you want, you can go ahead and check that out. This is one of my favorite formations in the game. So check that video out after this one. Anyways, let's hop into our adjustments for this cover 6 trap defense. Now, the main reason that you might go with something like this over a traditional cover 6 or a cover 6 invert or even a cover 4 quarters is because of this specific soft squat zone. Now, again, we're not adjusting our zone drop, so it's going to play how it is default. But it actually plays really good, and the reason that I chose this specific play with this super deep corner on the left is to show how deep it defends and how well it defends while just looking like kind of a stock cover 2 shell on that left-hand side. Very, very solid. The soft squat zones play very unique, and they're highly underused in my opinion. They will match onto certain routes, defend certain things. They can press really well, and they're just overall very versatile. If you learn how to use them correctly, they can become a big part of your defense. But let's hop into some of the adjustments. The first thing that I like to do personally is just pinch my entire defense. Out of big nickel over G, this is one of my favorite adjustments. Pinching your defense, in my opinion, helps with the block sheds a little bit. Specifically, a guy like TJ Watt on that right side, you'll see him probably get some better shed animations. I noticed that myself. So you're going to go ahead, pinch that defense. That's going to also press your DBs, pinch your linebackers as well. We also do want to pinch our soft squat over there. Now, the soft squat's going to play very aggressive, and if I just go ahead and run this stock, you'll see that the flat route with Jerick McKinnon is going to be absolutely wide open for you to throw. The soft squat, again, it's aggressive, it plays deep. And it's not going to play as good when there's not a zone in front of it defending the flats. That's important for our next step. So again, you're going to pinch the defense, but the next thing we're going to do is go ahead, throw our defensive end on a zone. Now, taking a look at our zones on the field, the reason that I'm putting Bud Dupree here in a zone rather than maybe Sean Davis here is because I want that 3 receiver hook to put in work for me. I don't want to have to user the player right here, Terrell Edmonds, because then he's not going to match. It's going to be your user, and overall it could leave some holes open for the defense. So what I'm going to do is user this vert hook, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw Bud Dupree here in that hard flat zone. Now we have the short flat defended, and you'll see how the soft squat's going to play even a little bit deeper potentially. This is just going to be our first step in our first adjustment. The next thing that you're going to go ahead and do is actually play some help defense over the top on that right hand side. When you're running cover 4 stock on a side, you are very susceptible to getting beat deep down the field. The way to counter that simply is just to go ahead and throw Minkah Fitzpatrick in this case, or the player your strong safety, in a deep half zone. Now, this is just the first way to run it. Again, we got a couple of different ways later in the video, but This is a very unique coverage, and you're never going to see this online, really. I assume most of you have not seen this style of defense. Anyways, let's go ahead, snap the ball, just to show you what it looks like. And you see right there, the coverage was really, really well down the field. Now, you might be thinking, why is the right side of the field not a concern to us? We don't have any hard flats over there, but that's just the beauty of our stock match coverage. Again, this left side of the field is a stock cover too, so it's not necessarily running match coverage, although the soft squad is a very aggressive zone. This is just stock cover 2. The real match is going to happen over here and with this 3 receiver hook. So when you're playing a stock cover 4 defense, this outside quarter is going to play very aggressive. You see, he's almost playing man coverage. He actually follows him inside. So that's what I mean, where you can potentially get beat down the field, especially if you don't have a deep half over there. That's why we deep half. But you see how the quarter flat here, he's just going to completely match onto the flat. And this route is defended relatively well. That would be a difficult pass to fit in there. Taking a look at this in route with Brandon Ayuk. A little bit of a unique in route, but nothing that Terrell Edmonds 3 receiver hook cannot defend. You see how we just have the stock hard flat again. The hard flat's still going to play fine, even though you don't have zone drops. It's going to play around 5 yards if you were to set your zone drops. And then this deep C route, look at how the soft squat's going to defend it. He's kind of playing it like man coverage originally. Then he's going to back off, but you see right here it's going to be defended, and that's really not going to ever be completed. By that point, Jimmy Garoppolo is already on the ground. Look at this fast shed animation. That might just be TJ Watt going crazy for us. But overall, I do notice some better sheds as long as you get maybe a couple abilities out there. So again, pinch the defense. Go ahead, throw Bud Dupree in a hard flat, and just put L1 in a deep half zone. Very simple 3 adjustments, really. You should be able to get this off relatively quickly. Now, we do have some more advanced stuff a little bit later in the video. But for now, this is some simple stuff. If you ask me, let's hop into another play. Let's just go with PA post dig shot. Now, this potentially gives it a little bit of trouble. And the reason for that perhaps has a little bit to do with the hole in the defense. Now, when you're looking at a defense like this, you see that the hole is going to be the middle of the field. We can kind of adjust to that. I'll show you some ways that I might adjust to that, but we're just going to run like a little bit of a weird setup. You see how that option route, just like random routes, are defended relatively well. In the middle of the field was not exactly super open there. But also look at our 3 receiver hook. This is an option route against zone coverage. He's going to sit in the middle of the field as he does. He actually just follows him across. Now, because it's a unique route combination, our match coverage is going to detect that. And look how our quarter flat actually follows the crosser almost across the field, and then he kind of lurks back. Pretty crazy match coverage right there. As far as this left-hand side, our soft squat's doing a really good job of following almost up the field until he kind of passes them off. Now, your one small issue is like these deep crossers. Not too many people run them this year, at least out of this type of a formation. But that could be the one thing that kind of gives you issues if they run a crosser going from the cover 4 side to the cover 2. But you see how the middle of the field, it's not exactly wide open. It is a cover 2 shell, but this deep half's going to follow over relatively well. And without a lot of time, it's going to be a difficult play or pass for them to make. I'll show it a couple more times here. Again, pinch, deep half L1, hard flat X. You can blitz your user as well. Now, again, let's go with a different type of play. Let's go with this strong flood play. Now, this is the one kind of weird play that typically gives match coverage, or at least cover 4 quarters on the right side, a little bit of trouble. And the main reason why is that the out route is usually open as long as it's from the slot. So for whatever reason, the quarter flat's obviously going to take our flat here, and the outside quarter does not defend these deep out routes well. So you'll see a 3 receiver hook actually ends up matching onto it, which is perfect. But if he wasn't, you would see how he would actually be wide open. So that's why it's important for you to keep these random zones. I'll hop into the replay one more time here, but just to show it quickly, the 3 receiver hook's going to go onto the flat. Oh, the flat's going to be defended, and then he's going to chase this out route again. Terrell Edmonds, not super fast, 77 overall. So take it with a grain of salt, but you see everything else defended relatively well here. Again, certain routes could give it trouble, especially like angle routes. They might not get matched onto, but that's why it's important to have the 3 receiver hook, and why you don't want to have to middle third that player unless you have to. The simple kind of solution to that let's say he's killing with a deep post. He's running this play. Somehow that deep post is getting open. I don't know if he's motioning him in, which would probably be the case, to get this deep post just opened up a little bit more. Maybe he's doing something like this. Now, if he's hitting you with that, that's when you're going to have to make your adjustment. I could do one of 2 different things. One, I could leave my 3 receiver hook, and I could actually throw Y in a middle third, along with my deep half like this. This is a risky defense because if he streaks X, it could be potentially a touchdown. I'm actually going to try something out later that has to do with the soft squat, and if he follows him all the way up, we'll test that later, but I could do that, or I could go ahead and just throw one of these two players in that middle third. We'll go with Edmonds, and that's going to leave me susceptible to the middle of the field, especially with how much work that 3 receiver hook does defending out routes, defending option routes, and everything in between. So you'll see I can kind of engage on the RB, and obviously my responsibility is having to be deep on that left-hand side. Now, I think the soft squad actually did a really good job. I mean, he could have potentially matched him up the field because I did not see him go. And you see he actually follows him in man coverage. So this is why, one of the biggest reasons why we don't have to deep half. And that's what I was going to talk about next, where I said I was going to quote-unquote try something. That's what I was going to talk about because typically on streaks, he could potentially match as well, especially if there's like no safety help. But you see, even with like a motioned in post route, these soft squats just match on really well. And it's almost better than man coverage, potentially just because it's a different type of zone. But when you see the soft squat match, it's 100% very important for you to follow around with your user. If you have the 3 receiver hook, it won't be as big of a deal using the sidelines. That's just something you got to pay attention to. Now let's actually try what I was saying. I was going to streak X, and I was just going to middle third that wide defender. So we're going to set it up exactly like so. Now if I see this, I could go with something like this, but for whatever reason, these soft squat zones, they do play weird, and there's not exactly a super good way to predict it. Kind of depends on the route combination. So I don't believe, let's say there's nothing in the flats. I think the soft squat should match onto the streak here. We will see, and yes, he does. Now he gets a step behind him, and he kind of hesitates for a little bit. That's going to be the case, but it's still defended relatively well. Let's go with leaving McKinnon in his backfield assignment here. Again, we'll pinch, hard flat, run our coverage like so. Now we have McKinnon in the flat, and we have that streak, and you see right there, it's going to be a touchdown. So that's why typically it's good to leave at least a deep half on that side, because although it's aggressive, the soft squat's going to make plays for you. It's also could potentially hurt you. Just be careful with that in particular. But let's hop into some of the other ways to run it, and some of the other ways to run it are going to be going back to some of the old setups that I liked to run, and those were to go ahead man up X on X. I would probably go ahead D or hard flat X or your D lineman still, and you can honestly just run something kind of like this. This is going to be maybe a little less risky for you in the chance that X beats you over the top or splits a cover 2, something like that. In addition, maybe I want to vert hook one of these players. Maybe I vert hook B, something like this. So this is going to be a nice little 2-man rush setup for you that could be effective going back to the corner strike setup. And you see how the vert hook kind of lurks down on those right things, and it allows your 3 receiver hook just to be a little bit more free. Now 2-man rush setup, we got a pretty good shed there because we have some good D linemen on the interior, but that's not always going to be the case. Be kind of careful and aware with that. So again, I'm doing is manning up X on X. I hard flat that defensive lineman. And then again, just what I like to do is vert hook B. This is a very safe defense, and once again, I didn't mention this on the last play, but of course you're going to deep half that strong safety in rotation. And again, if they flip the play, everything's just going to be vice versa. Very simple. That first setup should be very simple, at least to flip. This one, not too tough to do as well. Just some mixing some man coverage. Again, if that soft squat, he somehow figures out how to beat it consistently, this would be a pretty easy fix for that. And you see C route's going to be bagged. Click on, pick. Now you're not going to have as good of sheds, but it still should put in work. Anyways, I think I'm going to go ahead and conclude the video there. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and follow me on Twitter. Link will be down below in the description. And peace. I'm out of here.